Hello, good morning. Welcome back to Willow and Moon. I'm Sam, and today when I was thinking about what to film this week, I kept coming back to keeping it simple and recording something that was really on my mind, and that is how to kind of keep okay or keep sane when things are difficult and when things are busy and when things feel really overwhelming. So it's a Sunday morning at the moment. Things are relatively peaceful. Luna's asleep, the kids are occupied, my husband's home, it's a weekend, and I've had a project that I've been working on over the last few weeks that has taken up every kind of little bit of time that I've had. You know, it's the summer holidays, things are absolutely manic, and it's taken up every little bit of kind of creative time that I've had doing something that is very structured, and it's something that somebody's told me to create, which is sometimes a real relief. But that project's nearly finished now, and I'm feeling having a little bit more space in my world. It's very hot in the conservatory, it's very hot here in the UK at the moment, and so I'm sitting in the garden and I was just thinking about or reflecting on the last few weeks of the summer holidays, of the busyness in my life, and what things I need to put in place to make sure that I stay okay. That's not to say that it doesn't get overwhelming at times, that you don't feel hurt or the pressure or feel like a pressure cooker sometimes, but I think it kind of keeps you on an even keel and keeps you feeling okay most of the time. So to fill my cup, I've been listening to some podcasts, and what I do, because it takes a little bit of time, is that when I'm reading kind of self-growth books, I listen to them on Audible or on YouTube on podcasts. And then any fiction books that I can lose myself into that world, I'll read proper kind of paper books at night when I'm going to sleep. So I've been listening to Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and I was shown that book by watching a podcast on YouTube called Mormon Stories Podcast, and it is Mormon related, but I just think any high demand religion, any high demand family system, it seems to be all of the same stuff that keeps coming up. It just seems to be exacerbated slightly in these high demand religions. So I watched a podcast on these, it was called A Lesbian Love Story, and it was two women that didn't realize that they were gay all through their life, but they felt that something was wrong, and so they kind of had a gradual awakening when they lost their faith. Things started to come together, but in order for that to happen, things started falling apart. So they were married to men, they were in this Mormon religion, and things just felt, they just kept plodding along, and they just felt that something wasn't quite right. And then they discovered this, they met their life partner, which happened to be another woman. They had the feelings that they were missing out on, and suddenly things made sense. Oh, a dragonfly just flew by. So that got me thinking about authenticity, and they recommended Glennon Doyle, so hopped onto that. I just seemed to follow the breadcrumbs, started listening to Glennon Doyle's Untamed, and I just felt like I had this real connection with Glennon Doyle. I can see myself in her quite a lot. Just finding her true authenticity. And for me, it wasn't a kind of sexual awakening. I didn't discover that I was gay, but I did have a real health crisis. I was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, and that seemed to be my burning down, and then starting to rebuild. So starting to think about what my life was, starting to think about what I wanted my life to be going forward. Now I feel like I've been given this second chance in a way, learning from what cancer's taught me and seeing it more as a signpost or a blessing into what goes forward. So listening to Glennon Doyle's podcast, No, read her book, and then that led me on to her podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, with her wife, Abby, and they bring in lots of guests, people like Elizabeth Gilbert, that I've read lots of her books. Big Magic was massive for me, Eat, Pray, Love, and I read the next one, Commitment. I think I've read another book of hers. And Brene Brown, who I also love. They all seem to be connected and they all seem to know each other. So they're all on her podcast as well. And it's just been balm to the soul. So Elizabeth Gilbert talked about these letters to love that she's decided to write every day. She's taken herself off social media, or the kind of treadmill of it, and has started these kind of rituals of writing to God or love or the universe or your higher self, whatever you feel comfortable calling it, because sometimes names are triggering, especially if you've had bad experiences of that in the past. To me, God has started to feel more and more comfortable. It's not the God that I grew up with, that kind of white male, judgmental, patriarchal God. We're all born in sin and we all have to follow this set of rules in order to be with him. It feels very, very different. I don't see him as a him or a her, both, neither. I see God as everything around me, nature. I see God in beautiful flowers. I see God in my children. God to me is pure love. And so when I write God, that's what I think of. I think of God being accessible to everybody. I don't feel like you need to go through a priest or a pastor or a bishop in order to speak to God. No one human has that gift. We all can speak directly to God. So I've started taking up this ritual of every day, and I've only done it for the last week maybe, but it's starting to change my life in ways that I just never thought possible. So what you do is you sit down and you connect with yourself, however you do that. So some people need certain rituals. I kind of like to light a candle, put my hand on my heart, close my eyes, take some deep breaths, get yourself into that mode where you're not going to be disturbed. That's another great thing, another important thing. And then I write, Dear God, what would you have me know right now? And then I just start writing. And it sounds weird. And to begin with, I felt like my brain, my ego, I think my thinking brain was starting to take over, and I was starting to judge myself, thinking, is this writing going to be good? I'm not a writer like Elizabeth Gilbert or Glennon Doyle. Is it going to be rubbish? Is it going to be me just overthinking and judging? And so when I felt that coming in, I just stopped. And then when I felt it flow and didn't question it, I just wrote. And some of the things that are coming up are not only validating and so loving, it feels like a huge hug, but they're also practical in things that I can do in my business and in my life to move things forward in the right way, in my authentic way. If you're struggling with things that are going on in your life, with relationships, with people, with everything going on, it step by step starts to work to start to unpick that coming from your higher self. Glennon Doyle describes it as sitting around a conference table, and there's lots of people at the table, and each person is a part of her. It's a certain part of her personality, and there's one Glennon sat at the top of the table that is the wisest, or slightly more knowledgeable, or lacking, or free from all of the kind of judgment of the other Glennons. And so that head of the table gets the last say. And I kind of like that idea. So however you can picture it in your mind's eye is what's right for you. For me, it just feels like my truest form of love, maybe my soul. I've been looking into that a little bit recently, and that's just blowing my mind. But it feels very loving. It feels like there's no ego there. It just feels like what unconditional love looks like, which is actually really difficult for a lot of people to know what that is. Everything's got a condition, especially the God that we have known. It's very conditional. So I've been doing that every day, and it's really lovely. I might share one with you one day, just so you can see how it flows. Another thing I've realized, that I know it's me, my higher self, or God, and not my ego or left thinking brain, is that when you're in it, it's really lovely. Like, there's this flow. You don't really know what you're writing until you read it back afterwards, so you're not thinking, you're not overthinking, you're definitely in that flow state. And I get to the bottom, I've got an A5 pad, I get to the bottom of the page and I'm like, oh, I'm just loving this, continue, and it's like, no, we're done. I'm like, oh, right, okay. It's like, it's enough, we're done, that's it for now, my love, or whatever it decides to call me. Very, very loving terms of endearment. So that's a kind of another little nudge to, it's not me deciding what to write or wanting to write, it's my something else, whatever you want to call it. I've also started painting again, some watercolours. I'm spending a lot of time with Luna. I've let go of any judgment that I've got on myself about these big expectations about what the summer holiday should be. Everyone seems to be having the best time doing all of these amazing, quite grand things, and we are just keeping things quite simple. And it's just been lovely, and the kids have actually been saying what they've just had the best day. Remember that time when this happened or that happened, and it's just simple things like walking through the woods or letting Luna off lead for the first time and playing with her little whippet friends or new friends that she's made. So yeah, I just thought I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I found it so helpful. Starting to get back into my rituals, starting to factor in a little bit of quiet time, saying to the kids, can I just have 10 minutes just sitting in the garden on my own, and they're okay with that. Making sure that they've got room for imagination and creativity, because we can't create or we can't imagine or we can't dream if we're constantly distracting ourselves. I'm just going to look at my mobile phone, I'm actually talking to it, looking at our mobile phones, doom scrolling or just consuming content. There has to be gaps where you allow your creativity to shine and to come forward. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit today. I would love to know if you've done anything similar or if you can resonate with anything that I've said. Just would love to build a little community and start the conversation. If you know anyone that would like this kind of video content, then please share it with your friends. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye bye for now.